Welcome back to another episode of the Multifamily Women podcast. I have an exceptional guest for you today. This is the place where we talk about women who are redefining the future of multifamily. And before we get into this conversation, I just want to make sure that you are registered for the Multifamily Women Summit coming up soon. To do that, go to multifamilywomen.com. You can get all of the information there. Make sure you get registered. It's in September here in Phoenix. So do that now and then come back and listen to the rest of this episode. I probably shouldn't have told you to leave. Stay here. When we're done with this episode, then you can go register. All right. Listen, if you are getting value from these podcast episodes, please just take a moment to rate, review, subscribe, do all the things, interact with us on social media. This lets me know that we're doing a good job and that we're talking about the content that's important to you. And that is very important to us. So we're just here to bring you value. And that's why we do this. So today, like I said, I have a very special guest. I'm very excited because she has recently joined our Multifamily Women family, and I couldn't be more excited. Lauren Stinson is the Vice President of Strategic Marketing and Media here at Multifamily Leadership, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have her. Lauren will be overseeing marketing efforts for our summits, the Multifamily Innovation Council, and also our software Nectar Flow, which we'll get into a little later. So Lauren's got experience with Alliance, Radix, RPM. She's been on both sides of the industry, so to speak, and I will bring her in now. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be part of the team.
I'm so happy too. I'm so excited to welcome you to this family. You know, you haven't been to a women's summit yet, and I think once you experience that, you'll realize the true family that we do have that attends. We've got repeat attendees every year, repeat sponsors, and just an incredible gathering of the most influential women in the industry. It's really an incredible thing.
I've seen the videos. So
yes,
I feel like it's amazing just from watching that. So I feel like being there and just seeing how empowered, I feel like everyone's faces were lighting up at every moment. So I'm so excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, and you're going to be a big part of it. We've got big plans for you. You're going to help host. You're going to help host this podcast.
Yeah.
This is kind of, as our videographer said, me passing the torch, so to speak, to you, which I'm very excited about. So listen, you've been with us 2 weeks. You've probably heard Patrick and I say 8 million words very quickly. Yes, how are you feeling?
Honestly, it's so amazing what you guys have built. And the thing is, being in the industry as long as I have, which it's not crazy long, but about 12 years now.
Yeah.
And having been, like you said, on both sides, the supplier side, the management side, I just think it's really incredible the way that you are preserving the brand and the integrity and being so intentional about everything that you are doing here. It's incredibly impressive to me. And just every aspect of it, I'll say something like, well, what about this? Or I can get started to set up this. And you guys will have already been 40 steps ahead of me. I think that's been the most impressive part, is that I feel like I need to hit the ground running and you guys are already there, right? So I just think to be able to leverage that and really get the story out there now is really what my goal is.
I love that. And I love that you were able to key in right away on how intentional we've been about everything we do. Anyone who knows Patrick and I, we've built this from the ground up. And so every move we've ever made had to be very strategic. We didn't have the resources to attend all the trade shows when we were starting out, all of these things that we know are very resource intensive, right? So yes, every move we've made has been strategic, very planned and thought out. And I am so happy that you're here. You see that. I mean, the first day I met you, I could tell you saw that, the whole vision, rather than just pieces like, oh, we got to do this. Oh, we got to do this. It's like, well, how does that fit into the whole vision?
Yeah.
And especially for the Women's Summit, this will actually be our 5-year anniversary. Wow. Which I just realized the other day. So that's fun. And in December, it'll be our 10-year anniversary for the best places to work in multifamily.
Wow.
So we're hitting some milestones. You've joined at the perfect time. But as you mentioned, yeah, we do things differently. And so I'm wondering how you felt when you were like, oh, they don't have a trade show or an exhibit floor. How does this work?
Absolutely. And I think that, when you're in the industry, as long as we have been, right? You've been to all the big events and you think that big is the answer. Like it's just the way your brain works, and so when you see an event, you intentionally cap at 250, right? And a lot of people would be like, why? You can make more money by or you can,
Yeah.
you can have a trade show and you can have all these, suppliers and vendors, bringing stress balls in.
Right.
And you just think that way because that's the way it's been. And so to see that you are intentionally not doing those things and the reason behind it, like obviously the first question is, well, why?
Right.
And then the second question is, well, what value are people getting here that they're not getting at these, at other events? And how does that strategy work and how has it been working for you guys? And it sounds like what it's done is really gotten you a group of people that really want to be there to innovate and to learn and to be a true part of that conversation. And sometimes when there's so many people in a room, they don't get to actively participate the way that they might at a women's summit when it's capped at a certain amount. And so I actually found it really refreshing, and to kind of cap in, to have that intimate feel. And I know I saw, you'll talk more about it, but I saw you guys go on events, a bus ride to a property, and you get to tour, and you could never do that with a group that large. So I just think that those elements are really why someone would attend these events.
Yeah, we've talked about our networks and how you can have, on any given social network, a bazillion followers or subscribers, whatever that is. But it's really that core group of connections that you have that will actually make a difference, be a driving force in your life and you in theirs. And that's kind of where we're at with the Women's Summit is, I would love nothing more than to have thousands of women. Like the more impact we can make, the better. I'm all for it. I also love the fact that we do things differently. Like you said, everybody gets to know each other on a personal level first. Mm-hmm. It's not like, who are you? What do you do? What side are you on? What are you selling? What are you buying? There's none of that like forced networking, any of that. It's just pure getting to know each other and forming relationships.
Absolutely.
And everybody is there for the same reason, especially at the Women's Summit. Everybody is there to improve their life, improve their business, improve their career, whatever that means to them, right? To step into that bigger and better future. And it's magical when you can have an entire room filled with these executives and no one is afraid to speak up or ask a question. Yeah, we always joke that not everybody wants to be a public speaker at a conference or a summit, right? When you have to walk up in front of the entire room and stand at a microphone and be like, is my question stupid? Did they already say this? I don't know, but I really want to know the answer. That takes courage.
Yes.
And so right off the bat, we facilitate that like group share. And that's what it's all about, right? Learning from each other.
Yeah.
So I love that you keyed in on that right away.
And I think the speaking piece, right? So there's the people that don't, and there's an audience for that. Mm-hmm. And then there's the people that do want to speak, right? Which, in personally, I've connected with a lot of those people because, I was an actor. So yes. I always wanted to be on stage in some way. And I've made a career out of being a face of a company or being on videos or live streaming news videos or whatever that is. So there are the people that are interested in that too. And that's what I think is so interesting is that you guys have not identified people who want to be speakers on stage. Right. You've identified people who are really good at solving specific problems and getting them in front of a group to workshop those problems. And if there happens to be a supplier in the industry that also has a product that solves that problem, then they can be a part of that conversation. But it's not about selling said product. It's not about selling said person, right? It's about what do we all have in common that's an issue that we're all solving for?
Yes.
And that, to the core of it, is what we all want, right? Every supplier wants to be in a room with people who have the pain point that they solve. Every person wants to live workshop with a group of like-minded individuals what their core issues are in their business today. So
Yeah, you absolutely hit the nail on the head. And we realized there are a lot, there are quite a few people who want to speak, and that's wonderful. I mean, we need education and knowledge in this industry for sure. What we've learned through the Multifamily Innovation Council is that there are so many people who are not on the speaking circuit, so to say,
yeah.
who are just in the trenches, like getting the job done, but killing it, like absolutely doing amazing, innovative, crazy things, like, wow. And that you would never know, until we started this membership organization where we're meeting every week and hearing the challenges and the opportunities. And they're like, I don't know, why this is happening over here. And someone's like, oh, this worked for us. It's just an exchange of ideas. It's basically like a mastermind
Yeah.
every week, which is incredible. And so that's when we're like, that was brilliant. Let's get that person on stage because everybody needs to hear this.
Absolutely.
Whatever that was, let's get that person on the podcast. It's been a really interesting journey for us to hear everything that's going on firsthand.
Right.
And what strategies are actually making a difference. Some are great and fun, and some are actually like really moving the needle.
Agreed.
Which is
yeah.
cool.
And what's really cool is that, and that's part of why I'm here is to help you guys identify who do we put out there? What segments are we doing? How do we put this out to the general public so that they understand what the Innovation Council is doing on a weekly basis? Because I've observed two at this point. I helped workshop the last one.
I'm pretty sure we were like, Lauren, you're in it. Let's do this. Go for it. And you had played a big role without even knowing, but you did phenomenal.
I'm on a whiteboard and I'm writing things. And what was so interesting about that particular meeting when I was whiteboarding what the council was kind of saying and workshopping, and sidebar, the members of this council are people who are so high level of they have such a high level of thinking.
Yes.
These are, VPs, these are owners, investors. These are the people that are really understanding the problems of our industry. So I'm sitting here at a whiteboard like, well, I just write things, and my natural type A brain is trying to make sense of it, put it into categories, make it all make sense, find it. How do we take this and walk away with something tangible that we can implement today?
Right. Yeah.
And I loved how Patrick was like, okay, calm down. We are ideating. We're just throwing everything out there. Mm-hmm. And that's where you start when you're trying to problem solve, right?
Yeah.
What are all the ways? What are all the things we care about in a business? Let's put it all onto a whiteboard. Okay, now we can start to drill in. Okay, right. Then we can workshop those things in podcasts, live on stage. Patrick's big on the build in public piece, right? We can develop products around what these issues are. Sky's the limit.
Yes.
And so that's been really eye-opening for me to think that way, in terms of, we don't have to solve this right in this moment. We can workshop this and we can have everybody participate. And so having a group that already does that, I just think it's brilliant.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say you're type A because I was the same way watching that was just last week, right? Yeah. Our meeting last week. I'm like, we got to categorize these. We got to put them in buckets. We got to figure out, because it can be overwhelming, when you have a whole group of very smart people ideating and literally throwing spaghetti at the wall. Yeah. It can be a lot of spaghetti. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. How do we break this down into smaller bite-sized chunks to start tackling things?
Absolutely.
And that's what's exciting, because with all of the different perspectives, smaller owners to larger owners, all different size companies and everybody with different experience, you get challenges that are different for everybody. And yet somehow everybody understands yes, you're right. That is a challenge. And I thought that was a great exercise, and I'm excited to keep drilling down to make real change.
Yeah, agreed. And to that point, what you're really doing, we all think of the meeting as we're solving for this thing, and at the end of the meeting, I'm going to send every team member out with something to do.
Right. Yes.
Right. And so we're all in this mode of just, this is what a meeting needs to be.
Yeah.
But, it's our time and we want it to be valuable. But really what we're doing is, and then at the end of the meeting, I was like, oh, well, we're meeting again next week.
Yeah. Right.
Hey.
We'll just pick back up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what we're really doing is gathering data behind what are the main pain points. And you have a log of literally, this was mentioned 10 different times as a very, very poignant issue in our industry. Great.
Yes.
That's what we're going to solve for. And we're going to spend, a month focusing on, like our topic right now is centralization.
Right.
Right.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
we've been workshopping centralization roadmaps in the last few Innovation Council meetings. We've been talking about, the business as a whole, identifying, kind of a wheel of life of what matters to a business and what are certain things that you're doing to that business. What areas are that affecting? What's going to bring down culture? What's going to promote NOI, right? And is raising that NOI worth, tanking our culture?
Right.
These are the things that we need to be thinking about, having tools around evaluating these elements of our business. And so really high level, amazing conversations. And I love being a part of them.
Yeah. And it's been interesting too. It's probably no secret for anyone who's ever attended any of our events, online, in person. Every time we have someone register, we ask, what are your 3 top challenges that you're dealing with today? And what does a bigger and better future look like for you? So we have all this intel also from all the way across the industry, millions of units worth of intel on challenges. So when you and I are developing content for the upcoming Women's Summit, we're going to look at those challenges, look at our Innovation Council data, all the data that we have, all of the people that we have access to, and marry those things. Okay, well, who's really good at work-life balance or the myth of, whatever, however you want, buzzwords, right? Who's really good at that and who can really make a change and be impactful to our audience, both in person, on podcasts, in the events. We have guest speakers at our weekly meetings. It's really a great way to disseminate higher level knowledge than I think most people are getting.
Absolutely.
Because like you said, we have the data.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm excited to get out there. We're going to start a weekly segment called the mic drop.
I love that. You can, explain the meaning.
Yeah. So the Multifamily Innovation Council, the mic, and we try to preserve the our members to where we're not necessarily saying who said what, or, those meetings are confidential in that way. But what we started to notice was after the meetings, you, me, and Patrick were all fired up about this. Oh my gosh, what a great idea. Can you imagine if we had a tool that was a wheel of life that then everybody could assess, have a pulse on their business and how they're doing in all these key areas? And how cool would it be to have a tool like that? And so we're like, we need to be filming this TMZ style.
Yes.
You, me, and Patrick just wow, this is what came out of the council meeting today.
Yeah.
And I think that adds the fuel to allowing the public to see what we're doing. And then in my hopes, even participating, right? Yeah. So then we kind of release that and then we say, hey, what are you struggling with? Everybody has their struggles. What should we bring to this group of thought leaders?
Right.
And workshop. What do you want us to workshop? And we do a poll, or we shout out those people who are submitting great ideas to the council of things to workshop, right?
Yeah.
So I think the sky's the limit in terms of expanding this, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And the other cool thing that I feel like at both the Women's Summit, the Innovation and AI Summit in December, everything we do, it's all multifamily, obviously, but we are very intentional also about bringing in outside experts. We've had at the Women's Summit, those of you who have attended, Dr. Carrie. She's a neuroscientist. She worked for Disney HR. She's just an incredible woman with tons of experience, and she understands how the brain works. And so she comes in and it's not necessarily multifamily related. I mean, she tailors her content to us. She's also a multifamily investor, but it's more broad than that. And it helps the whole person, yourself, and also how you want to think about your career and your business, what you're bringing to your company.
Right.
And I know, a lot of our supplier partners who attend are also entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right? They're running their own businesses. They're the CEO. And that's like Patrick and I, we are entrepreneurs. So when you talk about the wheel of life, there's one, for your life, health and fitness and money and, kids and family, whatever that looks like for someone. But then you've got your one for the businesses as well that we were kind of going over in the meeting. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh man, as an entrepreneur, my wheels are one and the same because it's all together.
Absolutely.
And even if you're not an entrepreneur, I mean, it can feel that way too for anybody. Like you've got your work-life balance, your kids, your family, your boss, your expectations, your goals.
Yeah.
How do you get that promotion that you've been trying for? All of these things. So we try to bring in speakers and experts and content that address the whole person.
Absolutely.
Rather than just your work life. It's also your home life and your family life and whatever else you need,
I completely agree. Well, and it's interesting too because, people will bring in outside counsel into events all the time, right? I see a keynote who is in the hospitality industry or whatever that is. And I always felt like there was an element missing where they're tying that back to our industry, if that makes sense. So it's like, this worked for me and it was great. And then they walk off stage and you're like, okay, that's amazing. How do I?
Right.
How do I implement this or what, so I think tying those elements together through conversations like this, so then you get that keynote back out, or you sit in more of a discussion format and you say, okay, that's amazing. How would you do that in our industry?
Yeah.
How would you tie this piece back, right? And I think, from attending conferences, that's for me the piece that I really hope that we can do well. And it sounds like we're already doing well. It is
We try.
tying it back
Yes.
to, we know your problems. We've workshopped your problems.
Yeah.
This speaker might have nothing to do with our industry. However, take a look at how this part of their business actually directly models multifamily. And then that's a great conversation.
Yeah. That just triggered a memory from last year at our summit. I didn't advertise this at all, but I brought up an MMA fighter. And on the spot here, I can't remember not the strongest man in the world, but something, he's like very well known MMA fighter, this big burly dude. Didn't tell anyone this was happening. And I'm like, let's all give it up for Mark Kerr. And Mark Kerr comes up on stage and we were talking about, resilience and just powering through. And you just feel like, I can't do this another day, whatever that situation is, and how to have the mental toughness to keep going. And when you get knocked down, how do you get back up, that kind of stuff. And out of the blue, he's sharing and he's super vulnerable and he's crying on stage and we're crying in the audience and we're getting tissues and all this stuff. And it was one of those magical moments where none of us knew that was going to, he didn't know that was going to, he's like, I was like, well, we'll just wing it. Just come up. We want to hear what you have to say. And it turned into this beautiful conversation, even though MMA fighting has zero to do with not only my professional life, but my personal, like I don't do that kind of stuff. I don't. My kids try with each other, on the couch or whatever. They're throwing each other around, but I don't get involved in that.
That's probably a good choice.
Yeah, I try to stay away from that. But that was just, a magic moment, like you said, that had nothing to do with seemingly anything. And then it turned into everything. And it was like, oh, wow.
Because everybody feels like that.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten, how many more times do I have to get knocked down and pull myself back up and keep going right? And it's like, how many times? And I think just that metaphor of physically being pushed down and have to stand back up.
Yeah.
I think everybody's going through that. It's so relatable.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes we make those natural ties to elements. And I think it's really brilliant. So I love that at the events you do that, right? Like you have a keynote that has a great story like that. And then you also have a lot of sessions where we're sitting down and we're just doing this, right? Talking about things in the industry that we've identified as pain points. So it's a healthy mix of both, which feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. The goal is to, walk away, like you said, with our type A, like walk away with tangible things that can be done. We're not just going to walk away with fluff.
Right.
Like, oh, that was fun. I feel so good. Well, that's great. But now what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
And here's how you do X, Y, Z or whatever, whatever tactics you take away. So one thing that I loved when getting to know you is you mentioned your background as an actor. You love the stage, wonderful presence. You've been the faces of companies. I mean, you've just done all the things. What are you excited about? Because like I said, you're here to help host the podcast, host the summits. We are so glad to have you here. We're going to put you in front of the camera as much as you want. What is exciting for you?
Well, all of that. But what's really interesting is, I talk a lot about, I like both sides. I like the producing side and I like the stage side. So it's not all for me about being out there and being in front, right? For a long time, actually. I mean, I just opened it up. For a long time, I wasn't even like followable on LinkedIn or whatever it is, because I actually am a pretty introverted, private person when it comes to not being on stage.
Yeah.
So what's interesting for me is what I really grew to love is telling a story that needs to be told. Yep. Right. So I really view myself as almost a newscaster for different companies or for the industry. And I posted recently about how, content creators sometimes become business strategists just by nature, because you are the person that is taking all the things and making something tangible, the story. Yep. And in that process, I noticed I would always be identifying gaps in that story. I'd be telling this beautiful story, and then I'd be like, wait, this is contradictory to this. And then I'd get the whole business together, every key player, and I'd have to be like, we're telling contradicting stories here. Yeah. Our unique selling points, who we are, our culture, our brand guide, whatever. This is not matching this. Oh. And then you become a business strategist. Yeah. You're almost the person that has to tie them all together, get them all on the same page to tell that story to begin with, right? Like I did, I'll sit down and I'll be like, these are the elements we need to figure out before I can even begin to tell your story, because it's not making that much sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So our story is great. Like I told you, I've been here for 2 weeks and I get it. Mm-hmm. And I get how every piece of this feeds something greater. Yes. And so for me, that's what fuels me up as I'm sitting here is this is going to be an easy story to tell. Yeah. It makes sense. Yeah. The way that you have aligned a group of people who can identify problems that we can solution, that we can workshop. I mean, like I said, you guys are 40 steps ahead of me. And I've, it's been hard for me to find something that's that ironed out that tells the kind of story that we can tell. So for me, yes, I'm excited to be on stage. Yes, I'm excited to have a hand in all of that. I love it. It fuels me. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I'm excited to tell this story because it's a good one. Yeah. I don't know how else to say
No, that. I love that. And we've heard, over and over again for a story to be moving, to move someone towards what you want them to do, whatever the call to action is, it has to have emotion, detail, it has to have action. It has to bring that person from their current place, wherever they are, to what they want to be, to that desired future. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm excited for you to be here, because like you said, you can see those pieces and how they need to get put out into the world.
Absolutely.
In order for us to make the impact that we want to make in the industry and on every individual. So,
and I have to say, what's really cool is that, a lot of what's been frustrating in my career is the technical aspect of producing content at a rate that I want to produce content. And so whether that's that I've had a whole team of videographers, a whole team of editors, and we 2 weeks, 1 week to sift the footage, 2 weeks because of
I about fell out of my chair when you told me that. I mean, I know that's a thing, of course,
it's
but we move so fast, I can't even imagine.
Well, because and this is a piece of the story that really I don't think a lot of people know yet. And with the launch of the software, et cetera, you and Patrick are masterminds at automation. The way that you've even run your business, where I'm not joking you, the websites you run, the blogging, every aspect, you would think you were a company of 300 today. And I looked around and I was like, how are you doing all this as two people? Like how my mind was actually blown at what you were able to accomplish. But because you are literal masterminds at automating, it almost scared me. Yeah. Like, what? You've automated all of this and built an entire business. Yep. with AI and tools and automate. I mean, it's so impressive. You know, I said, okay, well, do we have HubSpot? What's our CRM?
Right.
Well, I built a CRM.
And you were like, what about Calendly? I'm like, oh no, we built that too.
We have our own Calendly that we built. And I'm looking around like, who are these people and where have they been?
I'll tell you, necessity.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we've had to do things out of necessity. And now that we do have we've got this huge development team behind us now that is just, now we can really launch and go fast, and so excited that you're here to tell that story. But yeah, I mean, literally the blogging thing is now, the process has started for me. I don't even have to start the process. Every day I get an email and it's like, hey, you've got a new blog to review. And I could just go ahead and post that without reviewing it, but type A. Yeah. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm not ready yet for that. But it writes the whole thing for me. We look at the anchor text. We review it quickly. Is it good for SEO?
Yeah.
Boom, bada bing, and it's done. And I click publish. And it took, for me, writing blog posts was, it was a big thing because I'm not that kind of writer by nature. Right. And so that was a long process. I mean, an hour, maybe more. And now it's like 5-10 minutes tops.
Yeah. And what's incredible to me, I will say about the automations is that, you know, and even I coming into this, I know what probably the general population does about AI, right? Like I'm equally as afraid of it. I'm equally as excited about it.
Yeah.
And what I've learned in just 2 weeks of watching the way that you automate, it's not about eliminating people's hands in processes, like you just said. It's literally about elevating people to be able to say, I'm a copywriter. Here are the parts of my job that I can be more efficient at, that I can integrate and work alongside AI.
Yep.
And here's what that looks like. And here's how I've made myself as an individual more valuable.
Exactly.
Patrick talks about the 70% automation, right? That I am now free to do all of these other tasks. And not the mundane ones that I honestly don't really, I don't know anybody outside of someone who a blog is their life, right?
Right.
A fashion blogger.
Oh, yeah. Right. They're writing about what they're passionate about, or
exactly. But people who are doing blogging daily for a company, mostly really to boost their SEO. Yeah. They're not sitting there usually like, I can't wait to write this blog today and then get it reviewed by 12 people and make sure that it's right and that
and then post it 2 weeks later.
Post it in 2 weeks after everybody's reviewed it.
Right.
And I don't think anyone's sitting around just chomping at the bit to do that. And so like the tool that we've created around blogging, it's like, wow. This optimizes SEO. Yep. It knows my company, my brand. It knows multifamily, and it's good. And it doesn't need to go through any approvals because you just know.
Yeah. It already knows your brand specific, all of that. Yeah. And it's, like you said, it can be scary. Is the AI going to replace me? Are we all being replaced by robots? No, it's a tool. Yeah. We use tools all the time to help us get better, faster, more efficient, whatever that looks like. It's just a tool, whether it's blogging or helping you review resumes. You know, we got like an applicant tracking screener that can review resumes and send you an executive summary, an unbiased executive summary, right?
Absolutely.
Makes your job faster, sends you interview questions that you might not have thought of by auditing what the resume says versus what the job description. There's all, if we get started, we'll never stop this podcast talking about the possibilities, which can be overwhelming. But yes, back to your point, we have successfully implemented these automations and AI to help us, all our whole team everywhere. We've got team members all over the world be better and faster and more efficient at telling our story. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Telling the story.
Brilliant. It's what every company, there are people that are going to be backing into AI that have a large company, and then they're going to be wondering, how do I tell my people? And, I actually asked that at OpTech. It was an amazing conference last year, and it was a lot around AI. And we were talking about how we teach people to work alongside AI. And it seemed to be the piece that not a lot of people, it kind of did crickets in the room. Yeah. Right? When I think I raised my hand and I asked that question, how do you, when you sit down with an applicant or one of your employees and you say, what part of your job are you thinking about adding AI into to make yourself more efficient? And I don't think those are conversations that people are having very frequently.
No, I don't think so. It's just not something that comes to mind yet, probably. Like
Yeah.
they might not even know that it's possible. Like, oh, I can automate some of this process.
Yeah. And so to
Amazing.
have like a physical tool where you're looking at different elements of what somebody's doing on a regular basis and get that management on board with, oh, cool, that's where you can automate part of your job. And to get that person on board with, great, this frees me up to do X, Y, and Z now.
Yeah.
You're elevating the individual and you're making AI less scary for the business as a whole. I think a lot of people think you're either all in on AI or you're not doing it at all.
Right.
Like you don't trust it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be overwhelming because
Yeah.
it's like, well, if I'm bringing AI in, what are there security risks? Are there privacy issues? You know, all these things that you don't have to be scared about because we've figured it out.
Yeah.
But the knowledge just isn't out there yet.
Exactly. So I think this is just, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What is happening here. And I can't wait to tell the story.
Yay. Yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to do, you know, with all of our podcasts. Like I said, everything we do, our summits are just trying to help the individual get better in whatever form that looks like for them. Better at their job, you know, better at life in general, make things faster, easier, more efficient, and higher quality, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, have we talked about everything? What else should we talk about?
We've really gone through it. You know?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, hopefully, like I said, there's typically as a marketer, you look at people who have their hand in so many different pieces and you get a little nervous. You're like, oh, the brand, what is the brand? You know?
Yeah.
And for me, now that I understand the way that they all fuel each other,
Yes.
the insights from the Innovation Council fuels the summits and what people speak about and the discussions that people are having that then identify the 5 core pain points that then allow you to develop product around those 5 core pain points,
Right.
all with the intention to simply fuel individuals and companies to make them better in all ways. It's so brilliant and so seamless when you really look at it that way. And so again, like how I bite-size that, how I trickle that out, that's still to be determined, but it's all there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you for joining me on your first episode. That was fun and not your last.
No.
Next time you'll be in this seat. Listen, thanks for listening today. And if you want any of the websites we talked about, the summits, all of that information will be in the show notes. You can go to multifamilywomen.com for the Women's Summit, multifamilyinnovation.com for the council, the Innovation and AI Summit in December. And then if we piqued your interest about automating and you want to learn more about that, you can go to nectarflow.com. But again, we appreciate feedback. Let us know what is valuable to you. What do you want to learn about? What are you scared of? What are you unsure of? What have you heard that's like, oh my gosh, is this really going to happen? Let us know and we will build content around whatever brings the most value to you. So thanks for tuning in and we'll see you in the next episode.